Hey, it's Akhtar Khan here, and in this video I'm going to talk about things to look for in a buy-to-let mortgage. Now, I recently did a video where I was talking about the difference between a bank and a broker, had lots of questions, so I decided to actually bring in our resident broker, Peter van der Wedding. So I'm going to bring Peter into this video. I'm going to add him in right now, and he can help us to answer some of those questions. Right, let's make sure we got the tech right. There we go. So this is Peter. Peter is our resident broker. Hey,
Hello.
Peter.
Hi, everybody.
Great. So, Peter, one of the questions we've been asked a lot through our social media channels and everything else is how to find the right buy-to-let mortgage. Okay. So I thought, you know what, you're our broker. You're the guy that does this stuff day in, day out. You're better qualified to answer this than me. So, what kind of things should people be looking for in a buy-to-let mortgage?
I think what we need to do is go back to the beginning first of all, and I need to know what the client's remit is ongoing. So it's not just about the deal today. What's their plan with their portfolio, what they're going to build, whether we've got to consider taxation first of all. Are they buying it in a limited company? Are they buying in personal name? And then once I know what plans are, then we can look at the property itself they're going to buy. Is it the right property? Does the rent fit? And then we start drilling down into, do they want a 2-year fixed rate? Do they want a 5-year? Do they want a discounted deal? Do they want a deal with no redemption penalties maybe? Because they might have plans for it. They might get some planning permission down the line. Might take a year to get it, but they rent it in the meantime. So I need to know all of that inside information first of all, before I can drill down into a deal. But ultimately, once we've got to that stage, what we're then going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at the total costs. If somebody wants a 2-year deal, we're going to be looking at is there a valuation fee? What size of arrangement fee there is? What other fees there are with the client? What solicitor this? They might have the deal might have a restricted solicitor, which might be somebody you don't want to work with, or we might have to use somebody that's a big corporate rather than somebody you know. So we look at all of those bits and pieces before we actually advise the right deal for somebody. It's about a total cost basis over the 2 or 5.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, in essence, what we're talking about is really it depends on the strategy that someone is going to be employing and what they're trying to do. Yeah, that determines what is going to be the best kind of buy-to-let mortgage. So let's talk about some of the kind of strategies that people might employ and what kind of products they might want to use, and also what kind of challenges they may have. So I know, like, one of the strategies that a lot of the people in the academy, my students, are trying to do at the moment is buy stuff discounted or buy it where they can add value. They want to refurbish it, refinance and rent back out. So let's talk about that for a moment, because it's a popular strategy. It's a great strategy to use. It's one that I started out. It was a lot of my bread and butter type deals. There were ways that you used to be able to buy things and remortgage them very quickly. There's some challenges around that now and some workarounds. So let's have a quick chat about that and sort of talk about some of the strategies and products that are available for people who want to do that particular strategy.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways we can do that. It depends on how heavy the refurbishment is. So that's just what I call like refurbishment, kitchen, bathroom, maybe a rewire, redeck, something like that. Then we can get a deal initially. What we would try and do is do one that maybe it doesn't have redemption penalties, that type of thing, or it might have something built into that where we can flex it later on, draw down. It just depends on the client situation and the condition of the property. The property itself needs to be lettable. So if we had an older person's place, but it's clean and tidy, working kitchen, working bathroom, we can probably get a buy-to-let mortgage. If it's worse than that and we're going to do structural work, then really we've got to go down the refinance route once the works are done. So it depends on the person's personal circumstances, which way we would go. And that's really on a project by project basis.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So key criteria then is if it's lettable, we've got some options available. If it's something that it's a bit more of a heavier project, perhaps not quite lettable, a wreck of a house. I mean, some of those wrecks are like my favorite types of projects. You go in, the carpets are sticky, the windows are hanging out, there's holes in the roof. And I have bought properties like that. They're just not habitable from day one, but it means that it's a double-edged sword, because on one hand, like very few people will want that kind of property, because your mainstream, like your first-time buyers, will scare the living daylights out of them. Your average buy-to-let investor doesn't want to get involved in something so heavy. It can also then make funding or financing it a little bit tricky. That's where you've got the opportunity, but then your job or your challenge then is to be able to fund the deal properly, maybe go down the line of bridging and then sort of refinancing.
Absolutely, and I think it's the old idea of the worst property is going to give you the biggest profit. So
absolutely,
and uplift, and the idea is obviously what we want to do is make sure that we eke out your deposit. So if we can build near enough a deposit by uplift, then you can move on and move your money on to another deal. So that's what we're going to try and do. Can't always do that. Depends on the uplifted value. But if I could just give you an example, coming back to this is a live case for a client. So big property in 65. It's a bungalow with a big barn on the side of it. Client wants to buy it. It's in Greenbelt. He's done it before. It's probably going to take a couple of years to split the land off. He wants to split the barn off. He reckons to get planning permission on that, couple of houses. But in the meantime, he wanted to rent it out. But out there, because it's a lovely property that's got big pieces of land, it doesn't actually rent for that much. So with a rental stress test, it's a bit difficult. But we managed to get him a great deal, no redemption penalties, 5-year fixed rate, so I could get a lower rental stress test, and only a $4,000 arrangement fee. Absolutely, it's blinding deal. Now he can sit on that. It's not going to make him a lot of money on the rent, but it leaves all his options open. It's going to wipe its feet for him in the meantime till he gets the planning permission. But the bigger goal is if he can get planning permission for 2 houses, which he's done it before and he knows what he's doing, the profit margin is going to be sort of between 3 to 400,000. But in the meantime, he's got a great deal. It will make him a little bit of money now with a bigger goal later on. So those are the types of things that we'll try and construct for clients.
So it really, that feeds back to, like, the best mortgage is really going to be down to what your strategy is and what your end goal is, what you're trying to achieve. Yeah,
totally. Yeah,
absolutely. That's great. So just let's move on from that. There's a lot of people who going to be looking to buy stuff that's kind of distressed or below market value, or they want to find motivated sellers. Now, if someone was to go and buy a property that was discounted, let's say they bought a property, they had a motivated seller, they got 15-20% discount, but then they wanted to go and refinance and try and get that. What kind of challenges might they face with that, given the current climate?
The biggest challenge they're going to find is that lenders really don't like that. If you're going to try and make what we call a paper profit, lenders don't like, but you're going to need to look at bridging, something like that. So we have bridges that will go at 90% of purchase price with a refinance out, as long as it hits 75% of open market value.
Right, so that's a workaround. That's a good strategy to use in that case, because we've had this before. If we go back to the last recession, whenever we did anything where we uplifted the value, when the surveyor came around to look at what we did, they wanted to know the ins and outs of what we've done to uplift the value. What work have we done? Have we taken a short lease and extended the lease? Have we done a big refurb? They want to see what you've done. Just coming in and giving it a lick of paint, isn't quite enough to warrant the uplift. So it's a different way. It's a different strategy for that particular type of strategy in terms of
absolutely.
Financing. Yeah,
I think if you are doing, just to expand on, if you are doing a bigger uplift, so you are spending, let's say 10, 15, 20, then there's no problem. We're not limited by the 6-month rule. If you can buy the property, refurb it in and out in 2 months, we can refinance. I've got a number of lenders. If you spend money on the property, a decent amount, there's no problem with the open market value after that. We've got great rates and lots of lenders that will do that. So don't think that. If you've just literally buying a property below market, you've broken a chain or something, got it 40 grand below market value, we'd have to use the other strategy. If you're going to do nothing to it, bridge it and refinance, that type of thing.
Yeah, that's great. So I think these are some great kind of answers here to questions that people have about what is, a good buy-to-let mortgage. It really comes down to what you're trying to do. And again, I think this is the previous video I mentioned was that, it was about question people are asking me was bank versus a mortgage broker, and this is the whole thing. This kind of demonstrates the point. Peter's doing this stuff day in, day out. You've got access to lots of different lenders, but one of the key things here is that Peter understands the types of strategies that you're doing that your high street bank might not know about. They're just going to know about the vanilla kind of stuff, right? It's really important that you find a broker that understands the strategies that you're employing. They don't just know the mortgage products; they know the kind of property buying strategies, and they can help you find the right kind of product to do that. Yeah. Pete, is there anything else you want to add before we sort of wrap up? Because I think we covered some of the fundamentals really of like finding the right kind of mortgages for I guess what people's strategies are they going to be employing.
Yeah, I think the things I'd like to add really are just about planning. What's the saying? Failing to plan is planning to fail.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. So if we can work with somebody a lot earlier before they've found properties, or maybe they're changing their strategy, and they engage with us, I can give them what the rules game are as such before they start looking at it. And also, I'm probably going to be able to maybe give them some other angles to look at property in a different way. I would like to think that I add value between yourself and myself to somebody to look at property in a different way. What can I do? Can I extend the lease? Is it a house split into 2 flats? Can we create leases? Refurb it? Can we move it into a separate limited company? Can we then uplift value without doing too much? Can we get our money in and out the deal? Those are the types of things that I'm going to look at. But the main thing is I need to know exactly what their strategy is. And I know we've said that earlier. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things for those people watching this video, Peter is our sort of resident in-house kind of broker. He's obviously independent, has his own company, but we use Peter, I use Peter, all of my academy members and students use Peter. And one of the great things we do is we get people mortgage ready, understand what their strategy is before they started, so they can get all of their ducks in a row. So by the time they get to a point where they've found the right deal, they know what to do, how to do it, how to cross the T's and dot the I's. Pete, just one thing that's sort of coming to mind, I think, which would be a good thing to talk about, because we did a workshop inside of our academy. Peter did that, he held that, and just shared some strategies regarding multiple units. So why don't we just talk about that, because we're kind of taking things to the next level. We're going a little bit beyond buy to let, but you've got some great ways of funding multiple units. Let's talk about what multiple units are and some of the strategies that you're employing, which are really helpful right now.
Yeah, they're multiple freehold unit blocks, they're called. Terrible title, but it means a house that, let's keep it simple, split into only 2 flats. Quite a lot of them around with tied landlords at the moment, where they've maybe converted them 15 years ago, never created leases. That's the key to it. Okay, so once somebody's created that property, they've got the two flats, self-contained. Okay, so you've got a property that is effectively one house, so it's going to cash flow a lot more money because you've got 2 self-contained units. You haven't got any problems like versus HMOs, no social interaction problems. So then what we would look at doing is buying that into a limited company, okay, and then maybe refurbish it, then look at creating leases. But as we create the leases, we would create another limited company, which the main company owns, and move the leases down into that. Now, the reason we would do that is that when a surveyor goes along and values a multi-unit block, he's only going to value it less than the 2 units on their own. Okay. The reason that they would do that is because if you ever need to be repossessed, then what would happen is that the surveyor is going to say this can only be sold to another investor. Okay, so they're going to want a deal. It's never going to actually maximise value. How to maximise value is to bring the 2 units down into the bottom limited company as 2 first-time buyer units, and you're going to maximise your value. So this is the way of doing it, but also you'll be in your portfolio. If you ever needed to sell, you've got 2 first-time buyer units, or if you need to realise some money in the future, you could sell 1 unit and keep the other. Whereas if you had it just one mortgage deal across the 2 flats without any leases, in creating any leases, then you've sort of not de-risking your portfolio, and you wouldn't be able to sell one. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great strategy to employ. just opens up more options, and it's also a way of really optimizing the value of a unit like that, because I think typically people would have to get some sort of commercial finance on a kind of project or on a deal like that. It kind of restricts the number of lenders that you got.
No, it wouldn't be commercial finance.
Okay,
No,
so
we could bridge, or we could actually I've actually got a couple of lenders that actually don't mind you doing that. We do it almost simultaneously, but with land registry simultaneous is a little bit difficult. There's but yeah, we can do the deal. It's not a problem.
So the deal that you do would be going on to buy-to-let mortgages, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
But without using your strategy, would someone have to do it on a commercial, or would they still be able to do it on a buy-to-let?
It's just about knowing the right lenders. Not all lenders like doing this and are comfortable with it. It's about engaging with the lender right from the beginning. This, we haven't bought the property yet. This is what we're going to do to it. Are we all right to do this and this sort of thing? The stages. The main problem is when we create the leases, at the moment, the land registry is so far behind. The two mortgages that we're going to put on the two properties in the example I gave, it's difficult to get the charge on until the lease is on there and register. These days, expedite the matter. If the solicitor's really good, they just have to serve notice on the land registry and say that you're going to be at financial detriment, and they will put it on the land registry in 10 working days. So I've been told.
Perfect. That's a great strategy. Peters, thank you so much for coming and sharing this. If people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Email, phone my office line, get an appointment booked in. That's probably the best way. Then we can, I can allocate the right time to you to find out what your strategy is, find out what the future lies with property for you, and then we can have that discussion, get all the documentation, again, getting the ducks in a row. Everybody knows where they go, and then plan working forward.
Okay, great. What we'll do is we'll put a link in the description for Peter's details. Peter, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem.
We're going to wrap up this video. I'm just going to shift us over. So guys, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, if you liked it, please like and subscribe. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments box, and we look forward to speaking to you on the next video. Take care. Bye for now.